If you could build the perfect place for jazz, what would it be?
In the 1880s, the Western Addition was added to San Francisco's city plan as a result of overcrowding. Hundreds of city blocks were added to complete the expansion, and 20 of them became known as the Fillmore District. As World War II began, job opportunities at nearby ports inspired a large population of African Americans to migrate from the South, bringing with them the lively jazz music of New Orleans. Jazz spread like wildfire throughout the city, and soon jazz greats like Miles Davis were regulars in the Fillmore District. San Francisco clubs like Jack's Tavern and Bob's City became known throughout the country. While culturally rich, the impoverished neighborhoods became targets for redevelopment when urban renewal took the nation by storm in the mid-50s. Justin Herman led the San Francisco Redevelopment Agency to gentrify the area. Jazz plummeted from popularity, its clubs began to close, and the vibrant culture became regarded as a thing of the past. However, a recent push to revitalize it now exists in the city.
The thing about jazz that you don't get from a lot of other music is this idea of people creating spontaneously in the moment.
It's really interesting to listen to other people just being themselves on their instruments. I think that people appreciate jazz without knowing it because it's in so much of the other music we listen to.
Jazz has developed this reputation as kind of being an insider art form. If you don't know the intricacies of what's happening within it, then you're not, hip to it, or if you're not hip to it, then it's maybe even a little bit exclusive. One of the things we're trying to do is kind of break down some of those barriers and try to make it as accessible to everybody as possible.
SFJAZZ is an organization dedicated to the preservation and growth of jazz. It was founded in 1983 and originally named Jazz in the City. Because it did not have a location of its own, the organization was forced to produce shows in venues unfit for optimizing jazz performance. Despite this, it grew rapidly, and by 2013 it had enough funds to build a center of its own. The SFJAZZ Center is the first freestanding building solely dedicated to jazz in the United States and is now internationally recognized.
Welcome to the SFJAZZ Center.
We started with a big question, which was if you could build the perfect place for jazz, what would it be?
We're just a couple blocks from Muni. We're literally a block from Zellerbach Hall and the Opera and the Symphony. And we're right pressed up against this emerging commercial and residential neighborhood. And his vision was to make this not be aloof from the city as a monument, but to become part of the city.
You have this central place that you can go to, and it's very inviting. It feels intimate, but it accommodates a fair number of people.
One of the things that attracted me to SFJAZZ was an openness it had, and it was very clear from its mission statement, opening doors to the world of jazz.
We even proposed something as unusual as looking at that abandoned school building and putting in photographs of performing artists on the building so that not only the presence of jazz took over the street, but the sense of this room, which is maybe 20 feet wide, feels like it's 100 feet wide because the edge to the space is really the building across the street. There's all kinds of things that gives it a sense of place. And now in the 21st century, in almost any urban project you work on as an architect, everyone's trying to get a sense of place.
All the intent of that was for one purpose, which was to try to create a better connection between the audience and the art.
Facebook, texting, tweeting, all that stuff is great, but it's not the same as basic human interaction, of being in one space at one time and interacting.
Penny in your knees, penny in your elbow.
The key thing is around this very primitive impulse, which I describe as gathering around the fire. The idea is, we all have this sort of built into our evolutionary mindsets. It feels good to be with other people. And the design of that theater in the end became very much gathering around the fire.
It's pretty much one of the only places that I can come see some of the best jazz musicians play.
We are educators. Our goal is to basically open doors to the world of jazz for people, to sort of help build the art form and build audiences for it.
One of the biggest ways the SFJAZZ Center is really making sure that jazz stays in this generation and the next after that is that we're really trying to get to elementary school children, middle school children, make sure that they understand this art form. And we're also expanding over the next 3 years through a grant that we just received this summer into every single public middle school in San Francisco and Oakland. just to make sure that kids understand this music is out there and it's alive today.
Another facet of the center's education are two ensembles comprised of advanced high school students from around the Bay Area, the Big Band and the Combo.
I'm 17. Actually, that's not true. I turned 17 in a week. And here at SFJAZZ, I play the drum set for both the high school all-stars combo and big band.
All of these all-stars and members of the Monday Night Band show promise when they're really young, but they just, they practice for hours a day.
Definitely SFJAZZ has like a whole nother level of kids playing here. Just like to see kids this young playing this kind of music is super inspiring. To drive here, it takes about an hour and a half. But there's no question about coming here. Definitely it's worth it. I mean, if this is what I plan to be doing for the rest of my life and what I want to pursue in college, if I can get into a program like this, I'm definitely going to take that chance and drive up here. I've always kind of known that I want music to be my future, and then just recently I've fully committed all my energy into making that happen.
It's all about vibe, a place that made you feel good being in there.
It brings jazz up without institutionalizing it.
There are a lot of really innovative things that they do that are just outside the box.
Not just, the heaviest, say, New York jazz artists, but Brazilian artists, Cuban artists, artists that are mixing jazz with other genres, whether that's hip hop or flamenco. There's a lot to learn about all kinds of music from all over the world, and you can experience it all at the SFJAZZ Center.